Hello and welcome back to Educating Zula. In this series of videos we're going to be looking at food manners. Okay, so what do we mean by food manners? Well, you wouldn't be wrong in thinking it's how your dog takes food from your fingers, okay, but it also includes the procedure that your dog has to go through in order to get its food, as well as how fast your dog eats its food as well. Okay, so why might that be a concern to us? Well, the speed with which your dog eats its food can often cause issues if your dog consumes its food really quickly. Also, the quantity of food that your dog eats can cause your dog serious issues as well, and they both come under the same sort of category. We'll address quantity in a little bit, right? So if your dog eats food really quickly, what it can do is, whilst it's ingesting the food, it can also take on board a lot of air, and that can lead to a symptom that we call bloat. The proper name for it would be gastric dilation vulvatus, or GDV. Okay, and what that means is, unlike in humans where we might say, "Oh, I feel bloated," and that means like our stomach's full of air, what it actually means with the dog is, rather than it's full of air, it's not only is it full of air, but it's twisted and it's isolated a pocket of the stomach. That becomes very dangerous for the dog, and if that's actually happened, your dog's going to need like life-saving surgery. Okay. Now, it doesn't always relate to the consumption of food or the speed in which the food is eaten. Okay, this can happen for any number of reasons. The symptoms of this would be like unproductive retching. So if your dog's trying to be sick but nothing's happening, that would be a symptom to look out for. Feel the dog's stomach. If the dog's stomach feels distended, bloated, and firm to the touch, again, that would be another very good indicator that your dog's suffering from GDV. If that's the case, straight off to the vet straight away. Okay. Now, this can happen to all breeds. Okay, there are certain breeds that are more susceptible, and that's your large breeds and your giant breeds. But other breeds that fall susceptible to this are any breed with like a deep, long chest cavity. It doesn't necessarily have to be deep and narrow, it can be deep and wide, but the volume of the chest area, stomach area, can often cause the dog problems. Okay, so if you've got a dog that fits that sort of category, keep your eye open for that. How would we tackle the speed in which our dog consumes the food? Well, there's various different things that we can do, and we've got an experiment set up later on in the video to show you how we can tackle this. First, let's address quantity. All right. Now, certain breeds like Zula, for example, Labradors, are known to be quite greedy. So if left unattended right at this very moment in time, there's a good chance that Zula would try to trough her way through a full bag of dog food. All right. Now, if we imagine a normal meal for Zula would be consumed, it would sit inside her stomach. Her stomach acids would sort of be absorbed into the biscuit because she's on a dry food. That will cause the biscuit to swell slightly, and the swell also doesn't take up more space inside the stomach, so she would feel more full. Okay. Now, if we imagine that Zula has got access to unlimited amount of food, and she was to consume as much food as she was like physically able to consume inside her stomach, first of all, the stomach acid would be absorbed into that very easily, very quickly, and there'd still be plenty of dry biscuit left over. Because she'd have eaten that large amount of dry biscuit, she's then likely to want to have a drink. So she would go to the water bucket and drink as much water as she felt she needed to drink. Right? So now if we imagine that the stomach is full completely of food, it's absorbed the stomach acids, and now it's having more water put into that. So we'd said that the quantity of food that would absorb the stomach acid, so this water's still got room to be absorbed into the biscuit, so that's what would happen. The biscuit's going to absorb as much water as physically possible, which is then going to make the stomach swell even more as the biscuit gets larger and larger. So what I've done to try to illustrate this for you is set up a little experiment. It looks a little bit like this. So this is a square tub. The square tub is 6.5 centimetres wide by 13 centimetres long. Okay, and in there you can see we've marked the level of biscuit without any moisture added to it. And then we've added water just above the level of the biscuit, as you can see in this picture here. And we're going to let that soak for a few hours and show you the difference between the two. Now we're still waiting for the results to come in on that, but by the time I finished editing this video, the results should be in, and I'll put them underneath this picture just there, okay, so you can all see how much volume has increased. So then if we was to scale that up into larger numbers, we can see how dangerous that would be. So first bit of advice is, if you come across your dog that and it's just in the act of gorging, you know, he's eating loads and loads of food and you can see its stomach's swelled, the first thing you must do is limit its access to water, okay? That's just to stop that biscuit swelling up even more. After that, keep your eye intently on that dog and make sure that it's not going through the symptoms that we mentioned earlier, alright? So that's quantity. Let's also mention, while we're on the subject, that if your dog's just eaten its food, for example, and this is a golden rule, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't feed your dog and then take it out for a walk. You know, you should take it for a walk and then feed your dog. Do it the other way around. If we imagine dog's belly's nice and full from a normal dinner or normal breakfast or whatever the meal might be, we go out for a run, we're running around, jumping around, and again that can cause that stomach to twist and cause us to have the bloat issues that we're talking about. So that's covered that. So now if we address the speed issue, okay, so what we've got now is our second experiment, and picture up here, you should be able to see a little sort of mark in the centre of the carpet, and outside that some white lines. Alright, so the distance between the centre and the white lines around the outside is 16 inches or 41 centimetres, and what we're going to do is we're going to place food on that mark in the centre and time how long it takes Zula to eat 80 grams of food. Okay, so it's going to be 80 grams of food in each of these cases. I'm going to show you how long it takes her to eat 80 grams of food. Now, spoiler alert, in a normal bowl it's very quick. Alright, so I would be addressing this if you have a dog that eats 80 grams of food in a similar sort of time, then this is something that you need to address. Alright. So just bear with me a second while I start the footage, and what you're going to be seeing is, in front of me I've got a monitor, so I'll be looking down, watching what's going off and doing my best to look up to you guys and comment on what I'm seeing. Right, so up first we've got the snuffle mat versus a normal bowl, okay? And they're off there, look, and the timer's running. So the timer will stop once Zula leaves the white square, okay? Or clearly shows no more interest in the bowl. For 10 seconds, and just look how fast she's going through that dry food in a normal bowl. We've got close-ups of this that we'll get to shortly, but 20 seconds in, she's just nailing that. And the top one on the snuffle mat, she's slowly working her way around. You can see picking out different spots to the food in. She's working quite nicely. Wow, that's 32 seconds and the dry food in the bowl is done. Alright, so next up, this is perhaps something that the breeders might suggest to you, yeah, or somebody with a bit of dog knowledge. It's the same thing, normal bowl, same quantity of food, but this time it's been pre-soaked, alright? And it's kind of like a Weetabix consistency. So we're off, and this is running now while she's still working on that snuffle mat. So on the snuffle mat we're like 58 seconds in and 16 seconds in on the soaked food. And you see that's a much slower sort of consumption of the food there. Taking the time, and you'll see in the close-ups why that is. We'll address that as we get to it. See how above on the snuffle mat there, look, she's changed angle. It really does promote her, the snuffle mat really does promote them to really work for the dinner. And in our case, Zula's looking to be a search dog, so you can't hear it right now, but she's working her nose, she's really snorting and sniffing, trying to sort her way through those material pleats to get to various different tidbits and treats. And at this age, that's brilliant for us. It's really promoting, you know, the good working of her nose. It's also something that would entertain your dog. You don't have to be training a search dog to warrant a snuffle mat. You know, they're great things. You can use them for all sorts of different elements in your training, not just for feeding them with. You'll see them crop up as we're training Zula. We use them for different things. Still ticking away down the bottom there, look, so that's like 3 times longer than the dry food. The soaked food's already going. Minute and a half in. So now if my dog had consumed its entire 80 grams within a minute and a half, I don't think I'd be too concerned about that. My mind would really be at ease after we get over that 2-minute mark, but that's not too bad. When we scale the food up, give her more as she gets bigger and older. For example, I'd like to see that time extend out relative to the quantity of food. If she's still nailing, say, 200 grams of food in 1.5 minutes, then again that would sort of draw my attention to it, and we'd look at doing something about that. What are we on now? Like 2 minutes, 5 seconds on the soaked food, and coming up to 3 minutes on the snuffle mat. So she's really having to work for that original 80 grams of food. There's been nothing added to that, as you've seen on the footage. Nothing's been added, nothing's been changed. What we do notice with the soaked food is when you soak the food, it tends to leave like a taste residue around the bowl. So towards the end of this footage here, Zula's kind of completely finished her dinner. And what she's actually doing is licking the residue off the bowl, just getting the last bits of taste. But the rules were that we stop the clock when she leaves the white lines or shows blatantly no more interest in the bowl. And as you can see, we're coming up to 3 minutes with Zula now on the soaked food, and she's still showing interest in the bowl, so it's fair to keep the timer running. On the top, we've got coming up to nearly 4 minutes, and Zula's still working for that original 80 grams of food. So, you know, if it had all gone by now, I'd be very happy with the way that she'd eaten that. It took plenty of time. I'm not concerned that she's gulped down loads of it while she's been doing it. Still going on the bottom. This is a nice time for soaked food. So this is the advice that you would expect to get from your breeder or somebody that's not trying to sell you something. Yeah, if you've gone into the pet shop and they have different bowls to slow dogs down. We're going to see one in a second. They're called slow bowls. There's a good chance that rather than tell you to just soak your food, they might try to sell you a slow bowl. So in a second we'll see what the slow bowl works like and how long it takes for Zula to eat the same amount of food in the slow bowl. But look at that, soaking. We're coming up to like 4 minutes now, and she's still going. To be honest with you there though, folks, she is just licking out the flavour on the bowl up, and we've lost a little bit of interest. So I think the clock will probably stop again if she does that one more time, or if she leaves that white line. But again, on the top, 5 minutes. Oh, there we go on the bottom, 4 minutes 20 seconds. That was just dry food, same quantity, wet food, same quantity, just soaked prior to that. Nice Weetabix consistency. Now we're on to the slow bowl, alright? Now there's many different types of slow bowl available in the pet shops, and walking around my local pet shops, this was the most common one that I found. Various different variations of this bowl, so a normal bowl with some upright bits in the centre. Again, I'll put a picture just there of Zula's slow bowl. There are much more elaborate ones available on the market. Normally, for me, certainly over the internet. If I wanted to go out and just buy one from the local pet shops, this is what I came back with. All right, the more elaborate ones even will definitely make the consumption of food longer than whatever this bowl is going to produce for us. All right, so we see where I've been talking for 45 seconds of her on a slow bowl, and she's still going. You can see how it's similar sort of actions to the top screen on the snuffle mat. She's working her way around the bowl, she's having to search out different things. That's brilliant. Again, from my perspective, it's making her really work for her dinner, getting active in there and searching it out, because we're going to want her to do that to the scent that she's put onto a little bit later in life, regardless of wherever that is. But again, can't knock the snuffle mat. We're still going at 6 minutes 37 seconds. And we've gone through the normal bowl with soaked food, and we've still got the slow bowl ticking away. So will the snuffle mat see all three contenders out? I don't know, we'll find out as we go through it. Again, with the close-ups of these, you'll see just exactly what the dog's process of eating various different foods, the dry food in the normal bowl, the wet food in the normal bowl, and the snuffle mat and the slow bowl, okay? And you get an idea of why it's actually slowing the dog down and the potential hazards that this can cause when we're just looking at her eating in a dry bowl, dry food in a normal bowl. But we're coming up to what, 2 minutes 7 seconds, and she's still working quite nicely round and round in that slow bowl quite quickly. The same sort of things going off on the snuffle mat at the top, working her way around. 2 minutes 20 seconds on the slow bowl. So the snuffle mat is seeing off the dry food in a normal bowl, the soaked food in a normal bowl, and the slow bowl. Okay, your bog standard sort of slow bowl that you can get from any old pet shop. So what I'm going to do now is pull up the close-up footage of how she's actually eating her food in these various different objects, and we'll have a look at why it's slowing her down and what she's actually doing. Right, so if we look at this, look how she's just ramming her face into that bowl of food. Just sort of mashing that muzzle into those biscuits and getting as much in her mouth as she can. If your dog eats like that, that needs addressing. That in later life it's going to cause issues. Okay. Right, so if we look how she's eating the soaked food there, you can hear as well. It's like a lapping. She's using her tongue to lick up that sort of moist Weetabix sort of porridgey consistency, rather than just powering her face into the bowl and grabbing as many biscuits as she can. And that sort of lapping's the reason it takes a lot longer. The consistency's such that she can't get a lot in her mouth all at once. With her tongue, she's getting, might be the equivalent to how much water she might get if she was to drink, because it's a very similar action. That's it. Yeah. Right, now if you look at that, look, you can see she's trying to push her face into the biscuits like the dry food, but those upright nodules are stopping that happening. So what she's actually doing, she's pushing her face in and then using her tongue to sort of lap up the biscuits, similar to the soaked food. So we're getting a sort of mixture of the two in this. She's working her way around so she gets different angles, because the nodules are causing different angles required to get to her food, which she wasn't doing in the soaked food. Yeah, she was just able to sit at that one angle and lap it all up. And you see there, look, she's going round. Yeah, brilliant. That's why it sort of slows her down. I think the camera sort of picks up the sound, but you should be able to hear her snorting and snuffling her way through those different ruffles looking for food. So I'll stop talking for a second and see if we can hear it. Yeah, you hear that? So that's her working her nose to seek out and find her food. And it took her 10 minutes 27 seconds to find 80 grams of food on the snuffle mat. And that's a really good way of slowing your dog down when it comes to consuming its food. Okay, thank you very much for watching, folks. I hope you've learned something watching this video. If you have, please remember to like it. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you've got to say about this. And we'll see you again shortly for how to get your dog to take tidbits nicely from your fingers, and what you expect your dog to do when it comes to feeding time. Okay, so that's the two things that we've got left to cover in food manners. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.